History tells the story of the world and of our lives. Sometimes that history goes bump in the night. Broadcasting from the center of oddity and the supernatural in Central Florida, it's the History Goes Bump podcast.
Hello, you spectacular people. Welcome to History Goes Bump Redux. I am your host, Diane.
And this is Kelly.
Kelly, on this episode, we're going to hit a city in Colorado that's up in the mountains. A lot of people are probably familiar with it when it comes to skiing, and that is Aspen. And this is the Hotel Jerome.
Looking forward to it.
Are you ready to go back?
I'm ready. Hotel Jerome is located in the heart of the city of Aspen in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. The luxury hotel provides high-end amenities in a truly historic building. The hotel was built by a man who wanted it to be a model of excellence for years to come. And it has been that. But it also has been something else. This lodging is apparently so luxurious that some guests never want to leave. Ever. The Hotel Jerome is said to be haunted. Join us as we explore the history and hauntings of Hotel Jerome.
The precious metal silver is at the heart of the development of many of the mountain towns in Colorado that still survive today. The Colorado silver boom began in 1879 when a lode was discovered in the town of Leadville. This followed the Colorado gold rush of 1859, and it was more lucrative. When the silver boom was finished, 82 million worth of silver had been mined. The city of Aspen started as a summer hunting camp for the Utes named Ute City. But once the silver boom started, white settlers poured in. Most of them were miners, and before long, 12,000 of them were calling Aspen home.
Wow.
The town was named Aspen because of the abundance of course, aspens in the area, and I used to love going up to see them turn during this time of the year in the fall. The Hotel Jerome has its roots in the silver boom as well. The hotel was built during the heart of the silver boom in 1889 by a man who was heavily invested in silver mining, Jerome B. Wheeler. The silver boom went bust eventually, and Aspen went through a period called the Quiet Years. And then in the late 1940s, Aspen saw a renaissance with skiing and a new developer named Walter Pepke, who redeveloped many of the properties. Today, Aspen is a playground for the rich and famous. Through it all, the Hotel Jerome has continued to mostly thrive, save for a few abandoned years.
As Diane mentioned, Jerome Wheeler had built the hotel. He was born in 1841 in Troy, New York. His parents, Mary Jones Emerson and Daniel Barker Wheeler, were both from Massachusetts originally. They eventually moved the family to Waterford, New York. Fun fact, Waterford is home to the largest annual tugboat festival. And I love tugboats, they're so fun. And Jerome attended school there. He liked engineering and got involved in mechanical engineering and machinery. By the time he was 20, the Civil War had started and he joined the fight, enlisting with the 6th Regiment New York Volunteer Cavalry. He was very successful, working his way up to 2nd Lieutenant and then Colonel. An act of heroism got him demoted shortly thereafter. A regiment of Union soldiers were socked in behind enemy lines and in desperate need of supplies. Wheeler's superiors decided that it was too dangerous to get the supplies to these men. Wheeler, however, was committed to helping them, and he went against orders, successfully bringing supplies to the men who were starving. After the demotion, Wheeler left the army.
Wheeler worked several jobs as a bookkeeper in Troy and then New York City, joining Holt & Company in 1869, where he eventually was made partner. Wheeler met Harriet Macy Valentine during this time, and the couple was married in 1870. And yes, the name Macy means that she is related to the family that founded Macy's. She was the niece of Roland Hussey Macy, who started R.H. Macy & Company. Wheeler eventually became a 45% partner in the company and stayed with it until 1888, when competition from other department stores began to grow. He and Harriet decided to make a trip to Colorado in 1883, and they fell in love with the state. Wheeler had heard about the vast mining operations in Aspen and Leadville, and he decided to buy into them. The name Wheeler would eventually become synonymous with Aspen as he developed many parts of the town.
Wheeler began with building a tramway for an Aspen mine that made the transportation of the ore easier. The silver needed to be smelted after it was mined, and so he built a smelter at the base of the mountain. He started the Croesus Gold Mining and Milling Company, of which he served as president. He invested in the Colorado Midland Railway and built the Wheeler Opera House in Aspen. He also built a bank and the Wheeler Stollard House, which was a home where he never actually lived. And then he built the Hotel Jerome, which bears his name.
The Hotel Jerome was not Wheeler's idea. He first offered to finance the project and loaned $60,000 to two Kansas innkeepers, Bixby and Phillips, who wanted to rival the Ritz in Paris. Wow, that's a big
aspirations.
Wheeler also donated the land upon which the hotel was built. Construction was not going as Wheeler had wanted, and costs began to balloon. Bixby and Phillips eventually skipped town, and Wheeler took over the entire project and was stuck investing more money, which came to a total cost of $150,000 that equals $1.6 million in today's dollars. The hotel rose to 3 stories and was constructed from red bricks and sandstone that came from nearby kilns. Handmade Colorado tile was used to decorate the interior, and elaborate wall coverings were installed. The first elevator west of the Mississippi was also installed in the hotel.
Nice.
The completed hotel had 90 guest rooms and 15 bathrooms. So not someplace you'd want to stay, Kelly. Like, there has to be a bathroom for one for me.
I just don't like communal
I know.
bathrooms.
And to top all that off, the hotel was the first in the West to have electricity. How many hotels have we heard this about? The grand opening was celebrated with a ball and banquet, and every room was lit by electric lights.
These early years in the late 19th century were booming for the hotel. Stars of the stage and opera, politicians, and the very rich all flocked to the Hotel Jerome. The invention of the Pullman sleeping car made train travel a wonderful experience and helped bring in more people to Aspen. Wheeler decided to sell the hotel to a Denver man named Fisk, who soon found he could not pay the taxes, and Wheeler eventually became the owner again. Hard times were looming, though, as the silver market crashed during the Silver Panic of 1893. Congress repealed the Sherman Silver Purchase Act a year later, and the silver boom was officially over. Colorado mountain towns began to crash after this, with many people leaving town and stores going out of business. Wheeler was hit hard as well, and had to declare bankruptcy eventually in 1903, and he lost the Hotel Jerome in 1910, unable to pay the taxes for the building. He died in 1918 in Manitou Springs.
A traveling Syrian-American drummer, Mansur Elisha, had come to Aspen, and he took a job as bartender at the hotel. He bought the hotel in 1911 for the amount of the back taxes. Ooh, that's how you know you can come scooping in and get something at a good deal.
Yeah, he did swoop right in.
With few visitors coming to Aspen, the hotel became a boarding house. A flu epidemic swept through the town in 1918. We know which one that was. And the parlor was used as a morgue since it was one of the largest buildings in Aspen. The year 1919 brought Prohibition, and Elisha decided to change the bar into a soda fountain to keep it going. Good idea.
Huh, that's creative.
Liquor still worked its way into some of the offerings, and a concoction of vanilla ice cream mixed into a shake and spiked with bourbon became known as the Aspen Crud,
Oh my!
which is still served there today.
It sounds good except for the name, although I don't think I've ever had bourbon.
But where'd you get crud? I mean, it doesn't sound appetizing. It's the Aspen Crud. Most people call
Is that
it
a foot fungus?
well, when you're sick, you say you have the creeping crud. So I don't know. The population of Aspen declined, and rent at the Hotel Jerome was cheap. The building suffered heavy neglect at this time and was getting run down.
Elisha died in 1935 and left the hotel to his son. The Hotel Jerome was about to find itself in the boom of another industry on its way to Aspen. U.S. Olympic bobsledder Billy Fisk came to Aspen and saw potential for a ski resort. He bought land and formed the Highland Bavarian Ski Club. The club built the first ski lodge, and the first 2 ski guides for the lodge stayed at the Hotel Jerome during construction of the lodge for 5 weeks. The U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division trained on skis in the nearby area, and they traveled down to the Jerome one night, where Lawrence Elisha offered to let the soldiers stay and have a steak dinner for $1 whenever they liked.
And now a little break for a word about one of our sponsors. In 1946, U.S. industrialist and philanthropist Walter Pepke traveled to Aspen with his wife. They saw Victorian charm in the rundown buildings of the town, and they bought up many of the properties, which included Hotel Jerome. He started the Aspen Institute and the Aspen Skiing Company. His investing into the Aspen Skiing Company allowed the completion of the longest ski lift anywhere in the world. Pepke started renovating Hotel Jerome, and one of his additions angered the locals. He actually painted the beautiful red brick exterior gray.
Oh my.
Travesty. A pool and pool house were added. After the renovations, movie stars started pouring in for vacation. Those stars included Lana Turner, Gary Cooper, and John Wayne. But then the hotel hit hard times again and shut its doors in 1956.
John Gilmore of Michigan decided to buy the Hotel Jerome in 1968. The place had been closed for 12 years and it was a wreck. The walls had become unstable and the roof leaked. Gilmore did not have the money to restore the building, and he made attempts to get investors to help him. He was only successful in paving the way for future restoration at zoning meetings. Fun fact, in 1977, serial killer Ted Bundy escaped from the Aspen courthouse.
Yeah, I think he jumped out of a window or something.
Good grief. It was not until 1984 that the Hotel Jerome was bought by a group of investors, and they began renovations the following year. The structural system was the first thing to be restored. Heating and plumbing was brought up to code. The gray paint was sandblasted off the exterior of the building, and the interior was refurbished to its former glory.
The J Bar was a popular spot with writer Hunter S. Thompson, and it was refurbished to its original appearance in 1998. A ballroom was also added along with a new rear wing, and guest rooms were refurbished in 2002. When Thompson died in 2005, his memorial was held in the ballroom, so that's how much he hung out there. This same year, the Gaylord family bought the hotel for $33.7 million. They wanted to add a 4th floor, but the city would not approve the changes and kept delaying, so the family sold the hotel. The new owners would get caught up in the Lehman Brothers fiasco that occurred a few years ago, and the owners were foreclosed upon. Jerome Property LLC had conducted the foreclosure, and they took over the property. They were mired for a couple years in lawsuits with the city over taxes. The Hotel Jerome is now under the management of Auberge Resorts, and they conducted another renovation in 2012.
Today, the hotel features standard rooms, suites, and luxury suites. There is a weight room, 2 jacuzzis, and a heated outdoor pool and spa. The J Bar is still here. Bad Harriet is the name of another bar, and this is named for the wife of Jerome Wheeler. I love that name for a bar. Bad Harriet.
Yeah.
The bar celebrates powerful women in history through craft cocktails. It really is an experience. The garden offers a great view of Aspen Mountain and offers menu items featuring local meat from ranchers and catch from fishermen and herbs and flowers and vegetables from their own garden. Wines from around the world are offered. Prospect is the high-end restaurant that offers an Epicurean journey. The living room is the heartbeat of the Jerome, and a cozy, intimate gathering place featuring small bites and modern cocktails. Felix Roasting Company was started in New York City and is an eclectic coffee shop. This is the only location outside of New York City. The hotel features something else that management does not advertise. This hotel quite possibly is haunted. As a matter of fact, the folks at Aspen Walking Tours claim it is the most haunted location in Aspen.
The most active spirit in the hotel is said to belong to a 10-year-old boy. His family was staying at the hotel in room 310 in 1936, and the boy drowned in the pool. Some people see him sitting in the corner of a hallway shivering inside a towel. He then disappears, leaving only a wet spot. Sometimes he's walking and leaves behind only wet footprints. One person who saw the boy's ghost asked the front desk about the child, thinking he might be lost, and this person was told that there were no children staying in the hotel at the time. The boy is occasionally seen in room 310 as well, which overlooks the pool. People like to call him Water Boy, and there is a creepy portrait of him in the lobby.
Henry O'Callister was a silver prospector who came to Aspen in 1889. He found what he was looking for when he discovered a 1,500-pound silver nugget.
Wow.
I wouldn't call it a nugget.
That's not a nugget.
A little big. Feeling as though he were a rich man, he checked into the Hotel Jerome. While he was staying at the hotel, he met Clarissa Wellington of Boston and fell in love with her. Clarissa's father didn't think much of old Henry, and he sent his daughter back to Boston. Henry was brokenhearted, and he squandered the fortune he had made, dying broke. He seems to have returned to the Hotel Jerome and is seen and heard walking the halls at night. He sobs and wails.
You think with all that money, he could have gone back to Boston and chased her down, unless she wasn't in love with him.
Right.
The third floor seems to be the most active, and hotel staff do not like to work on the third floor for that reason. A long-dead chambermaid seems to be doing some of the housekeeping for the staff, so that's kind of nice. Kate Kerrigan joined the Jerome staff in 1892 when she was only 16. She was a beauty, and many of the male guests took a liking to her. This made the other chambermaids jealous, and they would tease her. One evening, the teasing went too far when another maid told Kate that her beloved kitty had fallen into a frozen pond. Kate rushed out to save it, and she fell through the ice. She caught pneumonia and died a week later. Kate apparently is still tending to her duties, and modern-day housekeepers will find beds already turned down for the evening when they go to do that job. Another maid claimed to smell a certain perfume in empty rooms, and that she found beds made when she entered rooms to clean. Now, of course, that could just be the guests being nice about remaking their bed, although I don't know many people who would do that since they have to strip them.
True. Chris Around the World commented on TripAdvisor about her stay at the Hotel Jerome and linked back to an article on her blog. Here is her account.
I walked quickly through the building, trying not to catch a reflection in the mirrors. Turns out I should have been more worried about the room. When I entered, my friend Catherine, who had skipped most of the ghost tour, had some questions for me. So Chris had gone on a ghost tour before this, so she was already creeped out, and she'd heard the stories about Hotel Jerome. Why did you put the heat back on, she asked. When I came back into the room, it was on, and I know I turned it off before I left. I didn't touch the heat, I told her. That's weird, she answered. We'd both been in the room during turn-down service and specifically told the maid not to touch the heat. But that wasn't the end of the weirdness. And why did you leave the left sink full of water? Did you wash your face before you left? Catherine asked. Because it was filled with soapy water when I came in. Let the record show that I had not used that sink all day. We examined the soaps in the dish. They were unused. We looked at each other in horror, then Catherine dove into my bed with a shriek. Creepy, she shouted. Oh my God, I am not going out in that hallway by myself again, I told her. Eventually, we did fall asleep in our own beds, but we kept the TV on all night, as well as a light on in the bathroom. Who could blame them? What I want to know is where the soapy water came from if whatever the spirit didn't use the soap in the rooms.
Right. And nothing was negative going on in that room unless you're in preference of cold room air.
I know. It's just kind of funny what will creep people out. And I would be like, oh, this is cool because I love having the heat on.
I know you do.
But I also would be like, oh, there's something in our room? Cool. Let's get out some equipment or something.
Typical complaints by guests and staff include cold spots, sinks filling up on their own, and televisions turning themselves on and off. Are some of the previous guests still here at the hotel in spirit? Is the Hotel Jerome haunted?
That is for you to decide. Well, thanks so much for joining us on this Redux. I've been your host, Diane.
And this has been Kelly.
You take care now.
Bye-bye.